All Indiana Politics is your premier source for Indiana politics, focusing on issues that matter to you.
I still want us to be the best in the Midwest.
We can't afford another lockdown.
Give the citizens of this country the relief they need.
Education in the state of Indiana remains priority number one.
In-depth, nonpartisan coverage.
We don't know exactly where the economy will be in January.
People are worried with good reason.
Exclusive interviews with Indiana's political leaders.
We have the resources here in the state of Indiana to care for those who are in need.
Expert analysis on critical legislation.
We need to reform those laws.
This recovery is going to take some time.
We've got to anticipate that there'll be a budget shortfall.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network.
Good morning and welcome to All Indiana Politics. I'm Cody Fisher. We start with Indiana's governor in Japan, hoping to bring new jobs to the state as the campaign to replace him takes shape. Governor Eric Holcomb has spent the week in Japan talking to business leaders about locating here in Indiana. One of the meetings was with the CEO of Subaru. A new report Friday said Indiana was becoming the most favored location for Subaru electric vehicle plant in the U.S. Our Phil Sanchez spoke with the governor in Japan. And let's welcome in Governor Eric Holcomb now joining us from Japan. Governor, good to see you. Thank you for taking some time for us, sir. Your third trip in as many years to Japan. First up, how's it going? And also, what are the goals when you have these visits?
Well, first and foremost, it's going great, and always does. This is, as you said, not my first rodeo, so it's a bit sentimental to get back with longtime friends, old friends, you might say, and then to make so many new ones each and every time we visit Japan. It's my first takeaway, I would say, is you can't say thank you enough. Japan has been so important to the growth of our state. Obviously, they've got over 300 businesses located throughout all of Indiana, border to border. They employ over 60,000 Hoosiers and great careers. So saying thank you is my number one priority when I come. I would say, secondly, just realizing that the world is run by those who show up, and it's just as important to attend as it is detrimental to not attend, in my opinion. Those who are absent is at their own peril, and so I don't like to yield field position to anybody, including my gubernatorial competitors, and that just speaks to the third takeaway is, we're living in this time of a great transition in terms of electrification, in terms of digitalization. Every country is grappling with this, and so the discussions have been very constructive, very deep, and the competition's fierce to go out and get that new business, that new economy of the future. So I wouldn't miss this for the world.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to seeing what comes out of it. I want to get to some other headlines, if you don't mind, quickly, Governor. Indiana, as you very well know, the second biggest auto manufacturer next to Michigan. How would the state be impacted, in your opinion, by a UAW strike? Are you at all worried?
Yeah, well, we would be, and I won't lob any explosive rhetoric in from the cheap seats, you might say, and I can only imagine there's enough cooks in the kitchen, and the kitchen's probably pretty hot, but I'm hoping they could strike a balance. I did bring this up to Governor Gretchen Whitmer from Michigan, who has been in some conversations in the past, and she mentioned that, she didn't know what more she could do other than to encourage them, like I would, to strike a balance and to make sure that whatever agreement that they can come to, they come to it without a lot of collateral damage along the way.
We'll keep our fingers crossed on that. Hey, Governor, your time, as you know, is winding down. Have you thought about who you would like to see take these trips to Japan after your term is up?
I have not, because I've got a lot more trips up my sleeve before I'm ushered off the stage. And it's over a year, and it's a small world, and we've got a lot of partners, a lot of foreign direct investment already in the state of Indiana. It makes up a huge percentage of the annual investment, that capital investment that we seek. And so that day will come, and I will make sure whoever it is, I give a thorough debrief to, and it's a seamless transition.
You want to break some news here and tell us who you might be endorsing?
I have no news to break, even if I wanted to.
I know.
I'm serious. I want to wait and see. You know, I'm really proud of the record that we've been able to put together, and I get to sell the Indiana story of growth and opportunity here in Japan this week, and I'm always proud to do that. But I want to see who's going to take that record and then take it to the next level and crush the records that we've set. So that day will come where the aspirants or the candidates will start to turn their cards face up and show us actual plans on how they're going to better Indiana.
Governor, I have one more question for you before I let you go, and I appreciate you coming on with us overseas here. You took part in a campaign by the National Governors Association, and one of the videos is of you breaking bread with the mayor of Sullivan, Indiana, who is a Democrat. The campaign is called Disagree Better, right? And you even reposted it on Twitter or X now. And you said it's not about how wrong the other side is. It's about figuring out how to move forward. In your opinion, have you ever seen things as divisive as they are right now?
I haven't. I know they have been in our nation's past, but I have not. And that's one reason I feel pretty sincere and compelled to add my voice to a list of other governors who are waking up every day trying to advance the ball, trying to find solutions. And in this polarized world, almost straight down the middle, it's going to require us to seek help from the other side if we truly want to solve the long and lingering challenges that are before us. And so, you know, Clint Lamb's a good man. I would have done that in any day of the week, but he's a perfect example of someone who believes the same of how do we come together so that we can leave this a little better place than we found it.
Governor Eric Holcomb, always good to see you, sir, even if it means talking to you from Japan. We look forward to talking with you again in the future, and safe travels on your way back home, sir.
Can't wait to get home. Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming up, the fentanyl crisis in Indiana. The White House lead on drug control policy joins us exclusively next on All Indiana Politics. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics. We turn to the opioid crisis in Indiana and around the country. The U.S. drug czar was in Indiana this week talking treatment and recovery from drug addiction. Dr. Rahul Gupta is the first non-law enforcement person to head the Office of National Drug Control Policy. It marks a shift from punishment to treatment at the federal level. Our own Wish TV medical expert and former U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Jerome Adams went one-on-one with Dr. Gupta.
Now, I've heard you talk about counterfeit pills as another part of this evolution. Can you speak a little bit about the dangers of counterfeit pills?
Yeah, so I think one of the problems that we're also facing is that as opposed to plant-based drugs like heroin or cocaine, we're also increasingly seeing drugs, especially with fentanyl, being sold online as counterfeit pills. So the DEA assesses that if you're buying, let's say, Xanax or Adderall online, the likelihood you're going to get fentanyl, potentially deadly dose, is 6 out of 10. That means that the odds of dying from a counterfeit pill today are worse than playing Russian roulette.
Wow, wow. So we've put a lot of effort, a lot of resources into the opioid epidemic over the past 2 administrations. But unfortunately, recent data came out showing we broke yet another record, 111,000 overdose deaths in the past 12 months, according to the CDC. Have we reached a peak? Is this our new normal? Help people understand where we are in this fight.
Well, we began to, as you know, see exponential as opposed to incremental rises in overdose deaths, especially because of synthetics. But the policies that are in place now, that is harm reduction, meeting people where they are, expanding naloxone, expanding treatment, including telehealth treatment, removing barriers, and going after traffickers, but also their profits and supply chain, is allowing us, think about this as a large ship. You've got to slow it down first, and then you have to reverse it. So we see the rate of increase has significantly declined over the last couple of years. We're also seeing that at the same time that these policies that are going into place is going to expand to be able to get people the help they need, where they need it, and when they need it.
So the good news is things appear to be slowing down in terms of the increase. And like you said, like a ship, we have to slow it down before we can turn it around.
Exactly. And I think at the core is getting resources and funding to communities, to local communities, because as you know, most of the decisions and actions happen where rubber meets the road, which is local communities at local and state levels. And that's what the focus for us has been, to get as much resource out there as possible.
One of the things that I know you and I share is this desire to help people understand that evidence-based treatment really is effective and can help people recover. However, that's contrasted with the fact that everywhere you go, people say there's not enough treatment. What are you doing as ONDCP director to help us really move forward in a world where the things that we're telling people to do aren't actually available for them to do in their community?
Dr. Adams, that is such a great and important question. When we looked at the data, less than 1 out of 10 people that need treatment in this country, and we're talking millions of Americans, are getting the treatment. So the question then became, what do we need to do? So we've expanded telehealth. Telehealth is very important because that means that rural communities in states like right here in Indiana are able to access treatment wherever they might be, and they don't have to worry about taking time off, finding the gas money, driving to the doctor's office, getting an appointment, none of that. You can get telehealth very quickly. The other
and that
is,
also makes providers, it makes it easier for providers to see more patients, correct?
Absolutely, and it's a game changer. And I think one of the silver linings of COVID has been that we've accelerated, probably by a decade, the ability to get telehealth into American communities. The other is expanding treatment. We've removed the barriers, like you needed the extra license to be able to treat people.
The X waiver, correct?
X waiver,
yes.
that I had, but fortunately now by the action of Congress and signing of that legislation by President Biden, we don't need that anymore. Now we can actually get more. We've expanded from 129,000 providers to almost 2 million because of that one policy change. And we're making sure that we have treatment behind walls. What does that mean? Well, any given day, there's 2 million Americans in custody in this country. And we know that when they are released, 95% of people will be released. The likelihood of them dying from overdose is 120-fold increased. And when we provide treatment, you can actually reduce it by 65-70%. So we think that we can save almost 16,000 lives by simply providing treatment access to jails and prisons. And now Medicaid is allowing states to apply for that and be able to do that 90 days before release. It's a game changer again. And then again, making more available treatment options for people.
So, final question, what gives you hope?
Well, I think there's a lot of hope in our country. We have a strong nation that has stood up to fight challenges before. And this is a time where we have synthetic drugs that are not only a threat to this country, its national security, economic prosperity, but to the world. So at the same time, we have leaders like yourself, Dr. Adams, that is, has been in the trenches and understands what we need to do. And I appreciate our friendship, our partnership on this. But the fact today that more Americans are aware, we have almost 27 million Americans in recovery. Americans understand the value of life, the ability to save those lives, and get people the help they need when and wherever they need it, and our policies that are evidence-based and sourced and properly resourced at the same time.
Well, thank you for your leadership, Dr. Gupta, and thank you so much for taking the time with us today.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Adams.
Coming up, we have two members of Indiana's best political team here to talk about the economy and the impact it will have on the coming presidential election. Welcome back to All Indiana Politics as we welcome in two members of Indiana's best political team, Kip Tu, former Indiana Democratic Party chair, and Tom John, former chairman of the Marion County Republican Party. Gentlemen, let's start by talking the economy. It is almost the #1 factor in any election. Kip, how does the UAW strike impact President Biden's chances of re-election?
Well, it depends on how long the strike continues, obviously, and that's not something we know at the moment, and it's a rolling strike right now, as you know. No one in Indiana has yet to go on strike. They're doing a unique sort of work stoppage, in that they're adding plants as they go to ratchet up the pressure on the big three. If it goes on for a very long time, it's going to have a negative impact on the economy, no question about it, and that will not inure to the benefit of the incumbent president, no matter who it might be. And so his best interest is this thing doesn't last long. I think he did make a statement today over the weekend, that said he wants people to make all the money to share some of it. The workers have participated in making that money for them, and that they ought to get some of the benefits.
Tom, same question to you. How is it going to impact President Biden's chances of re-election?
Well, I think it impacts in a couple ways. One is a way that, frankly, is now impacting it, which is the lack of leadership in letting it get to this point. You have two sides that, frankly, an assessment of looking at the demands from the union is they're excessive in setting up what we'll have as far as bankruptcy of companies, or potential bankruptcies of companies that we saw in the Great Recession. But by the same token, you have companies that frankly are making a lot of money that could be sharing more of it with the unions, but maybe it could be done in ways that are better. So his failure of leadership to really bring them together is already there, and it's going to be a problem. But then you've got the longer term. If this extends, the only thing that Joe Biden has had to try and hang his hat on is the economy, the growth that's been spurred by all the Democrat spending in D.C. The fact is, if that's crippled, he's really got no leg to stand on and is in, I think, deep trouble.
All right, gentlemen, we're also facing another cliff in less than 2 weeks, that being the federal shutdown if no spending bills are passed. Tom, do Republicans actually benefit if the government closes and the economy suffers?
No. Unlike what I was just talking about, right, where it's the failure of leadership in Joe Biden to allow the economy to potentially be impacted by the unions, this is a case where it's not a benefit for this infighting, particularly when it can be pointed to that there was a deal done that, frankly, a small group of Republicans are reneging against the Senate Republicans, who are in lockstep in this case with their colleagues, and with the leadership in the House.
Now, Kip, Tom just mentioned the infighting there. With that federal shutdown looming, Speaker of the House Kevin McCarthy is facing challenges from within the GOP. How does that impact this situation?
Well, I think it does impact it, although I don't understand why he didn't call their bluff weeks ago. He called their bluff just last week. And, it's really hard in politics or in other things to beat somebody with nobody. And the Matt Gaetzes of the world are, attempting to beat somebody with nobody, and they don't have a horse to take up against the speaker. It is utter chaos, and it just shows once again Republicans don't know how to govern. They haven't been capable of governing in a while, and are not capable of governing then.
This question is for both of you, but let's start with Kip. Kip, does Kevin McCarthy survive as Speaker?
I think in the short term, yeah, because of what I just said, which is there's no heir apparent. There's nobody to challenge him that could get more votes than he can as Speaker. But he's diminished the power of the Speaker by the deal he made originally. And so being Speaker of the House these days isn't what it used to be.
And so, Tom, then he said short term. So both short term and long term, does Kevin McCarthy survive?
Yeah, I think in the short term, he absolutely survives. I think Kip's right. You can't beat somebody with nobody, and it's hard to look and see who else would be out there. And I think in the long term, I think he still has a real significant chance of surviving and potentially even thriving. He's in a tough spot with a thin majority. You've always had this problem, whether you're talking Democrats or Republicans, when you have a thin majority and you have groups of your party that are extreme. And he has managed through that and managed to get things done at multiple times at this point, whether you're talking about debt ceiling or other things where people thought it might have been impossible, and he's managed to get through it. And I think that's a sign of actually true leadership, is being able to get through the thin passes to actually get to the other side.
All right, gentlemen, we have a little under a minute here, but Tom, and both of you, one more question. Who wins in this potential shutdown if there is one? Tom?
I don't think anybody wins. I think the American people lose.
And Kip?
History shows that it hurts Republicans. I think in this instance, there's no reason for the shutdown. But I think I'm with Tom. Nobody's really going to win.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. That is all for us. Indiana Politics is wrapping up. We'll
take All Indiana Politics on the go with you. Download our podcast now. Part of the All Indiana Podcast Network and allindianapodcastnetwork.com.
All right, thank you for joining us for All Indiana Politics. We'll be back here next Sunday morning at 9:30. We'll also continue to follow the latest on the potential government shutdown. For all of us here at Wish TV, have a great rest of your weekend.
From Wish TV, this is All Indiana Politics Podcast on the All Indiana Podcast Network. Watch All Indiana Politics live Sunday mornings at 9:30 on Wish TV and at wishtv.com. Subscribe to this podcast and listen weekly here on the All Indiana Podcast Network. And be sure to discover even more great podcasts at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.